Hi, this is Ritik, your biology subject matter expert from memoneet. And in this video, we will be concentrating on organisms and population. Without delaying, let us move on to the topic now. So, what do you mean by organisms and population? We try to understand its complexity by investigating the process at various level of biological organization, such as when we want to see how organisms and how populations are interrelated, we try to understand their various level of biological organisms. Say it could be their macromolecular level or at cell level, tissue, organs, or even individual organisms, their population and their community and its ecosystem, as well as biomass. So, ecology is actually a subject which studies the interaction among the organisms. Okay, so there is an interaction among all the organisms, interaction among the human beings and animals, right? So, there is a kind of interaction between the insects, different plants, trees, with the living organisms like we animals, and between the organisms and its physical environment, that is abiotic environment, the environment where we are living. So this is actually called as, together is actually called as ecology. So therefore ecology is basically concerned with four levels of biological organization. So one is organisms population, community, biomass. Clear? So one is organisms, next its population, the community, and the biomass. So in this video, the chapter, we will be exploring more about the ecology at its population level. So what do you mean by population here? So the population consists of individuals of same species living specifically in its geographical area, sharing or competing for the similar sources and potentially interbreeding, breeding within them. And eventually, what happens? Asexual reproducing organism in a group are considered a population for ecological study also. For example, if we consider a cormorants in the wetlands, rats in an abandonment dwelling, or teak wood trees in the forest, bacteria in the culture plate, lotus, plants in the ponds, all these comes as a population. Say like you have a culture plate and you will be seeing different types of colonies or the same individual colonies. So that is also considered as what? Population. Okay, right. So there is a natural selection operates at the population level to evolve a desired traits or desired character. And the population ecology brings the gap between the ecology, population genetics, as well as the evolution. So, coming to the attributes of the population, it is through the birth and death rate, represents per capita birth or death. Example, birth rate of the lotus plants will be out of 20, you will be seeing 8. So, which is 0.4 offsprings per lotus per year. Okay. So, if you are talking about the death rate of the fruit flies, so 4 out of 40, that is 0.1 individual per fruit fly in a week. So this is how the ratio changes. And even coming to the sex ratio, which represents the population of males and females in a population. Say like out of 100, we have 60% female and 40% male. Clear? So coming to the birth rate, if you have around 20 population, so you will be seeing 8. Okay, they are 8 out of 20. That is, in yearly, you're saying these are adding 0.4 offsprings per lotus per year, they are adding, and zero point 0.1 individuals they are removing, like they are dying, and they will be separated from the birth population. So this is how it goes. Age distribution. So when I'm talking about the age distribution, it actually represents the percentage of individuals in different age groups. Age pyramid are actually graphically representations of the age distribution and indicates the population growth status. Like we have growth population, then we have stable population and declining population. Growth population will be brood base and stable population will be uniform width, and the declining population will be the narrow base. And this is how you have. So growth, expanding, okay, and stable population, that is what you're saying, and the declining one you're seeing here. So for human population, the age pyramid generally shows age distribution of males and females in the diagram, that is here. So here the shape of pyramid represents the growth status of the population, whether it is growing, whether it is stable, or whether it is declining. The size of the population actually tells us a lot about its status and the habit of a population. Say like the impact of the predator. Predators are the one which actually depends on other organisms or their effect on the pesticidal applications. So we always evaluate them in the term of any changes in the population size. The size in nature or could be low as less than 10. Okay. Or go into the millions also. So population size, technically they are called as population density. Whenever you are representing the size of the population, it is always through the population density. Okay. So, and it has been represented as capital N. Right. So, next, population growth. The size of the population for any species is not a static parameter. It keeps changing with the time and depending on the various factors, including its food availability or predators, pressure, and adverse climatical change or weather. In fact, it is these changes in population density that give us some idea of what is happening to the population, whether it is fluctuating or whether it is flourishing or whether it is declining, like it is increasing or declining or it is fluctuating. So, a kind of idea we are going to get. So, the density of the population given habitat during a given period fluctuates due to the change in four basic processes, two of which are its natality and immigration, contributing to an increase in the population density, and to mortality and immigration to decreases. That is, natality is nothing but birth rate, and immigration is the organisms comes to the new places. So then declining of population will be based on mortality, that is death rate, and moving from that specific area to the another area. So yeah, in general, natality refers to the number of birth during a given period of the population that are added to the initial density, where mortality is the number of deaths in the population during a given period of time, and immigration is the number of individual of the same species that have come into the habitat from elsewhere during the time period under the consideration. Then last, that is immigration, is the number of individual of the population who is left the habitat and gone elsewhere during the time period under consideration. So, considering this all thing, if n is actually called as the population density at a time t, then its density time at t plus 1 will be n is equal to n, where its t plus 1 will be. So this will be the equation. So you can see from the above equation that the population density will increase if the number of birth plus the number of immigration that you are seeing. So immigration is nothing but where it is. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So here you are seeing immigration is more, and the number of death plus that the number of immigration is also in that way. So under normal condition, what happens? The birth and death are most important factors influencing the population density, and the other two factors assuming importance only under the specific condition. So for instance, if a new habitat is just being colonized, immigration may contribute more significant to population growth than birth rate. And this is how it actually happens. So population density increases only when the natality increases and immigration, that is adding of new species, increases, where it declines when immigration, that is migrating, happens more, or mortality, death rate will happens more, the population density decreases. Okay. So based on that, we have an exponential growth curve here. So resources, food and space availability is obviously very essential if you need to have a stable population, and ideal when resources and the habitat are unlimited. Each species has the ability to realize fully its initial potential to grow in number, as Darwin observed while developing his theory of natural selection. So then the population grows in an exponential or geometrical fashion. So if a population of size n, the birth rate, okay, and the represented as b, and death rate, again it is represented as d, then the increase or decrease in the population of size during an unit time predict like t, dn by dt will all be this equation. So where r that you are seeing here, correct, is an in this equation is actually called as intrinsic rate of natural increase, and is a very important parameter chooses for assessing the impact of any biotic or abiotic factor influencing the population. So based on that equation, you can see here that describes the exponential or geometrical growth pattern of a population, and that resulting as a J-shaped curve when we plot n in a relation to the time. So this is the population density and this is time. So if you are familiar with the basic calculation here, you can derive the integral for the exponential growth equation as here. So where this nt is the population density after time t n naught, which is the population density at time 0, where r is the intrinsic rate of the natural increase, where e is the base of the natural logarithm, which is 2.71828. So any species growing exponentially under ultimate resources condition can reach the enormous population density in a very short period of time. So Darwin showed how even a slow growing animal like elephant would reach enormous number in the absence of its checks. So the following is an that we will be discussing. See here we have some like points to point. In nature, no population of any species has access to ultimate resources to sustain exponential growth indefinitely. So this ultimately leads to the competition among the individual. You need to understand, because in nature, not to any specific species they will be getting the ultimate resources, because they do not lead this gets this ultimate resources. The individual has to compete for it, for the availability of the resources, and the one who is fittest, they survive and they reproduce. Recognizing this principle, many governments have implemented measures to control the human population growth also. So a natural ecosystem, even habitats, has the finest capacity to support a maximum number of individual. known as carrying capacity, which has been denoted by K for a species in that habitat. So, in a population growth in a resource limited environment, it initially undergoes a lag. Lag means, yeah, so phase followed by a phase of acceleration, that is nothing but declaration, and eventually stabilizing at the carrying capacity. This result in the sigmoid growth curve known as Verelst per logistic growth, and where this n, that is the population density plotted against time t, produce this characteristic curve describes mathematical logistic growth curve in this equation. So where n is the population density at a time small t, whereas in the intrinsic rate of natural selection, where k is the carrying capacity. Coming to the population interaction. So here we have around different population interaction. So where positive plus says like beneficial and negative says like it is harmful. So species A and species B, any species, two species are there. So if both the species are getting mutually benefited, it is actually called as mutualism. And both the species are getting harmed, it is called as competition. And one species is getting benefit where other species is getting harmed, it is called predation. So where one species is getting a gain and the another species is getting harmed can also be called as parasitism, where one species is getting benefited and the other species is neither getting benefited nor harmed. It is called as commensalism, where one species is, harmed and the other species is not either getting benefit from it, but still it is harming it, is actually called as amensalism. So I'll see one by one. So predation or predators not only serves as an energy contribute, but also the it's regulate the prey population, preventing them from reaching the density that could uh, destabilized this ecosystem. For example, absence of the natural predators allow invasive species to proliferate unchecked, as seen with the, yeah, prickly pear cactus in the Australia in 1920. Okay, there's something happened. 1920. Okay. So what happened is there is a cactus which grow very enormously because there are no other predators who are ready to eat that cactus. That was one thing. And this invasion species spread across millions of hectares until controlled by the that cactus feeding moth and predators for its native habitat. That's why predators are very important. Such principles underpin the biological control methods and agriculture pest management also. So predators also promotes the species diversity by mitigating interspecific competition among the prey. And the classical example is the starfish and the rock intermediate communities of the American Pacific coast. So where the starfish were removed from an enclosed area during an experiment, over 10 invertebrate species becomes extinct within a year due to increased competition. So in nature, the predators are typically prudent, avoiding the overexploitation of the prey to prevent the mutual existence. So, pre-species in turn have evolved various defense to counter the predation. Like we see the camouflage as seen in some insects as well as frog. Like they predate as if they're very toxic, but they're not toxic. So because some animals have already encountered it and they'll think, okay, this animal might also be, or this bird, or this caterpillars or frog might be toxic and it will leave. For plants, herbivorous acts as a predators, and approximately 25% of the insects are also acts as a predators, like they feeds on the plant parts. Unlike animals, plants cannot escape their predation, so they rely on the morphological and chemical defense, such as thorns, which can act as a defense from the herbivorous, while some chemical compounds are also there. So that makes the plant toxic, preventing them from getting grazed. And many commercial substances like nicotine, caffeine, they have been extracted from plant originated as a natural defense against the herbivores. So these adaptation highlights the intricate strategy the plants employ to survive in the fact of predation. So Darwin highlights an interspecific competition as a key drive of evolution. Okay, where struggle of existence and survival of the fitness. Competition, for example, flamingos and the resident fish. Flamingos is this, and resident fishes in South America lake compete for what? Zooplanktons. Both actually compete for zooplanktons. Coming to the competition then. Competition can occur even when the resources are abundant. So interference competition, experimental evidence. So the presence of one species can reduce the feeding effectiveness of the other species. So competition is a process where the fitness, okay, of one species is significantly reducing the presence of the another species. So for example, a laboratory experiment with it, example Gauche, shows that the superior species eliminating the inferior were under limited resources. So one of the evidence in the nature is competitive exclusion. Example, Abingond tortoise extinction due to the competition from the goats. So what happens is a species expands its range when the competing species has been removed. Example, Collins study on Bran Branacillus in the Scotland. Next we have is the Gauge principle. So in God's principle, two closely related species compete for the same resources, cannot coexist indefinitely under limited condition. So then that comes a coexistence mechanism where competition can lead to the evolution of the mechanical promoting coexistence and the resource partitioning. That is, species avoid competing by utilizing the resources differently. Example, MacArthur studies of five verbal species coexisting on the same tree by developing in foraging behavior. Next, impact of the competition. Herbivores and plants are more adversely affected by the competition when compared to the carnivores. Then we have the parasitic mode of life offers free lodging and meals, making it a successful survival strategy. Then, host specificity and co-evolution. Many parasites are host specific. Parasitic only they feed or depends on only one kind of species, and host and parasites often co-evolve where hosts develop a mechanism to resist against those parasites, and parasites evolve a encountered mechanism to overcome those host defense. Then adaptation of the host. So how do the host adopt? Loss of unnecessary sense organ, development of adhesive organs or sucking to link to the host, loss of digestive system, high reproductive capacity it holds. Then its life cycle is complex, often involves two or two intermediate host or vector. Example like human liver flux requires a snail and fish as an intermediate host, and malarial parasites needs a mosquito vector to infect a new host. Impact is parasites reduce host survival, growth, reproduction, and population density. They may weaken the host, making it more vulnerable to the predators. Then we have the ectoparasites, so which live on the external surface of the animal or the host. Example lice on humans, ticks on dogs, ectoparasitic copypoids on the marine fishes. Then they lack the chlorophyll. Then cuscuta, which actually lacks the chlorophyll and depends on its host for the nutrients. Then we have endoparasites, which actually live inside the host of the body, like liver, kidney, lungs, or blood cells. High specialized with the specific body structure, but increased reproductive potential. Then we have brood parasitism. Brood parasitism is nothing but So there is a parasitic bird which lay egg in the nest of the host bird, that is crow. So parasitic bird egg, it actually exactly mimic just like the bird of the crow you are seeing here, but in that way it acts as the mimic. So the female, so it will later on it will get all the facilities till it gets developed in that way. So then the female mosquito are not true parasites as they only use the blood for reproduction. Then we have a commensalism. So an interaction where one species gets benefited and the other is neither harmed or neither benefited. So for example, orchids on the mango tree, which is orchids is it is benefited because it is getting support by the mango tree, where mango tree gains no any benefit or neither loss from this orchids. Then barnacles on the whale. So these barnacles, they are actually attached to the whale, gaining the movability and access to the nutrient-rich water. And whales remains unaffected or any whales are not even going to get any advantage because of it. Then cattle, egret, and grazing cattle you have. So this is the grazing cattle here, and this is the cattle egret. So here what happens when strip up insects from the vegetation? So this cattle egret, egret, they get to eat those insects which are present on the body of this cattle. As a result, cattle is getting being cleaned. So here both are getting the advantage here. So the next is crownfish and sea anemones. So crownfishes receives a protection from the predators by living among the animals, sliding tentacles, and sea anemones does not appear to benefit from hosting the clownfish. This is another thing. Then characterization. Benefits are actually here you are seeing only one-sided benefits, while the other one is neither harm nor it is getting any advantage over it. So common in the ecosystem where physical support or proximately provides the benefits like protection or food access and all. So this is all about how you're seeing this, a community and the population and all. So if you're finding any doubts in this chapter, you can contact me through the comment section or through the Telegram channel. And don't miss to like, subscribe, support, and also follow with your share that the video with your friends. Thank you.